Shalom. First, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Racha HaKadosh. Double honors to the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone, from whom I learned this truth. Shalom to the 144,000 elect. I am Mayak Allah. And I have a couple videos that I want to play here concerning the beef shortage and the closure of the beef plant and in Illinois. I think this happened early August. But I will be playing these videos under the 1976 Fair Use Act. This is not a monetized channel, so this is not in the effort to make any money. All right, just for any copyright infringement. This is strictly for edification purposes only. All right, again, this is under fair use. All right, so I got the first video that I want to play. It's about 3 minutes. And then I have a second video that I want to play. And I'm probably only going to play maybe a total of about 3 minutes of it. And I have some verses that I want to bring out. And that'll be the end of this. But before I even start, I want to bring out a verse. This is Jeremiah chapter 44, verse 13. It says, "For I will punish them that dwell in the land of Egypt." All right, and America is modern day Egypt. All right, as written in the book of Revelation. It says, "For I will punish them that dwell in the land of Egypt, as I have punished Jerusalem." Jerusalem being a people before a place. It says, "By the sword, by the famine, and by the pestilence." All right, we're seeing the beginnings of the famine that's going to occur. All right, this famine is going to occur, and we're seeing prices go up in the grocery store as a result of the wars that's taking place, the restrictions that's being placed on the places like the Gaza, like the Strait of Hormuz. All right, so shortages are coming about, which is going to bring shortages in the stores. All right, diesel prices are going up. All right, which is going to bring prices up for just to transport food from one place to another. All right. But I'm going to let this video play. I don't think I'm even interrupted, so I'm just going to let this one play.
It's worth over $20 billion, closed one of its locations quite literally overnight. Well, that's exactly the question that those in the cattle industry are asking about the nation's second largest beef processing company, Tyson Foods. On April 13, 2026, Tyson informed their 2,500 plus employees at the Joslin, Illinois beef plant that they're out of a job. Not in a month, not in a couple weeks.
And I think she misspoke. She said April, but this actually is August 13th. Salaki.
That very day. This location was originally founded by the Iowa beef processors and has been in operation since 1983. Anyway, they process about 3,000 head of cattle every single day. And while workers will be compensated for the next 60 days, it still leaves the question, why overnight? Tyson announced at their shareholders meeting that they've lost an estimated $650 million in their largest segment, beef. And while they published the Joslin plant will be shutting down immediately, they're also shutting down 2 other locations. If you look at the cattle industry, back in 22, we hit major liquidation numbers because we had a multi-year mega drought affecting cattle producers across the nation. And what you've probably heard left us in a 75-year drought. This shows in the financials as packer margins first turned negative in September 24. And by October 2025, they were losing $126 a head. Overall, beef margins dropped 269% from 2025 compared to 23. And if you look at Tyson's public financial reports, their 2025 fiscal year, they lost over $1.13 billion in the beef industry alone. Now, this does not mean that Tyson came out in the red. Tyson is the largest multi-species protein processing company in the United States. That means they have a diverse portfolio, and that diversification
can't forget how much chicken they produce and put out. So, like she said, they're not in the red. All right.
Left them in the black and even gave their executives a pretty handsome bonus, but it does explain why they're shutting down.
That's millions of dollars in bonuses for their executives. All right. If they could just sacrifice a little bit of the amount of money that they were giving to these executives in bonuses, they could have kept these plants open, at least for a longer period of time. All right. You just put people out of work overnight, pretty much. But I'll let this continue to play.
Beef plants that are operating anywhere from 10 to 15% reduced processing capacity. But what does this mean for producers? Well, those in the Midwest are probably the ones most affected. The nearest facility is now 160 miles away, but really it's the lack of warning. The plant closure abruptness has left cattle feeders basically screaming to figure out logistics of where cattle are going to go. And just like when Lexington plant closed, live cattle and feeder cattle futures fell while pushing box beef prices higher. There are a couple theories out there. Some like to say that Tyson's getting out of the beef industry. That's their largest segment. I doubt it. And I also heard that some people are saying that this is a way to buy time to fix their facilities so they can process cattle that are bigger frames and be more efficient. While none of those theories are proven, it still is all speculation, but it does leave the question of what's going to come next. But what do you think? Do you think it's purely business and just mitigating operational losses, or do you think there's something larger at play? How does a company that's worth over $20 billion...
And see, they've been knowing about this thing, about the cattle drought, as they're putting it, since 2022. All right, and they said they're down to a 75-year low as of 2026. But when you foresee these kind of things, you do something about it. All right, they just allowed this thing to happen. All right. I'm just going to go to the book of Genesis before I go to another video here. And this is, I'm going to read a few verses, and I'm going to read them in the NLT. Genesis 41. And this is Joseph, one of the sons of Jacob, and he's interpreting Pharaoh's dream. And I'm going to start at 26. Like I said, I'm going to read this in the NLT. And I'm probably going to read down to about, I'm going to read a little bit of this. I'm going to read down to about 31. This is Genesis chapter 41 and 26. It says, the 7 healthy cows and the 7 healthy heads of grain both represent 7 years of prosperity. All right, so this is Pharaoh's dreams being interpreted by Joseph. All right, and it's talking about the 7 years of prosperity. All right, America's years of prosperity are behind them. As you can see, America is in a decline. All right, verse 27 says, the 7 thin, scrawny cows that came up later, and the 7 thin heads of grain withered by the east wind, represent 7 years of famine. All right, this is what we're entering into in America, entering into a famine. We're seeing the beginning stages of it. It says, this will happen just as I've described it, for the Most High has revealed to Pharaoh in advance what he is about to do. And like I mentioned earlier, these executives in this Tyson plant, and not only that, all of these beef processing plants have been knowing about the cattle decrease since 2022, and what efforts have they put in place to try to reverse this, or at least try to catch up as much as possible. All right, so they were forewarned, all right, but did nothing about it. Unlike Pharaoh having this dream, he didn't know what it meant, so he had to go to Joseph, an Israelite, all right, in order to find a solution, find out what this dream meant. All right, anywhere the Israelites go, prosperity is there, whether they be in control or whether they be servants in whatever captivity that you've been in. All right, Egypt did well as a result of Joseph being governor, all right, being second in command to the Pharaoh. Says verse 29, says the next 7 years will be a period of great prosperity throughout the land of Egypt. But afterward there will be 7 years of famine so great that all the prosperity will be forgotten in Egypt. Famine will destroy the land, and that's what's going to happen right here in America. All right, they talk. This dream shows 7 years of prosperity. Like I said, the years of prosperity for America are behind them. Only thing they're going to suffer now is the decline, which we're seeing the beginnings of. It says, verse 31, it says, this famine will be so severe that even the memory of the good years will be erased. All right, and that's what you can see. You can go on YouTube and you can look at it, any number of videos. All right, see any number of people who are complaining about how America is just not the same, how they're struggling to keep up, how they're struggling to pay mortgages, pay rent, buy food, get them the things that are necessities for their daily lives. All right, and it was no big deal when you had so-called black and brown people suffering, but now you're even seeing the heathen begin to suffer. You're even seeing the so-called white man Esau Edom begin to suffer. All right, that's why you're getting so much emphasis. This is getting so much attention. All right, because it's affected some peoples who are not accustomed to making do on going or either going without. All right, but I have another video here that I wanted to bring out. And the Lord is making right all the wrongs that these heathen, specifically Esau Edom, has perpetrated in the world, because anywhere they go, is death and destruction behind them. All right, they don't know how to build. The only thing they know how to do is take and destroy, and anything in their path, they destroy it. All right, but I'm going to bring out the second video, and I'm going to skip around in this because it's 9 minutes long, but I'm not going to play all of it because I just have a few more verses that I want to bring out, and then that's going to be the end of this.
On John Huston's watch, First Energy paid a bribe, then got $1 billion bailout. And who's paying the bill? Ohio families with utility rate hikes. Tell John Huston, hold energy executives accountable.
America's beef supply is in trouble, and our grocery prices are going to be going up even more. I know that's not something that anybody wants to hear. It's not definitely what I want to hear, but that is the reality of where we're at right now, because Tyson Foods is closing one of its largest beef processing facilities here in the United States. So if you haven't heard, on August 13th, Tyson Foods announced it was closing its beef processing facility in Joslyn, Illinois, and workers were told their jobs were ending immediately. 2,500 jobs in that area. Can you imagine? And I know a lot of people don't have to imagine because many people have been going through this year. But you go into work in the morning, you've been working there for many years, maybe you're getting close to retirement, you're really happy with where you are, it's been a very stable job, very reliable job, very hardworking job, and you're told basically effective immediately that your job is going to be ending. Well, that's what happened to 2,500 people in Illinois when Tyson Foods made this announcement on Thursday. And I'm sure a lot of people haven't heard about this because it's not a very popular thing. I'm sure the media doesn't want people to just kind of rush out and go into panic, stocking up on already expensive beef prices at the grocery store. But it happened. It happened. And it's not an isolated thing. So it looks.
So this thing is really affecting the worker, all right, on the whole, that goes to work every day, getting underpaid and overworked, all right, the poor, the working poor, while these executives are still collecting their big bonuses, all right, which they saw this thing coming and did nothing about it, all right. They're even talking about now, and I'll see if I can find an article on it, but even talking about now how Argentina is going to be supplying the beef. So since 2022 up until now, that's what the solution is that they come up with, that they'll get the supply of beef from Argentina. Let me see what I can find on that. Salakia. And I'm just going to go to Google AI and see what article. Articles on beef supply coming from Argentina. Salakia. Let's see here. Salakia, because it's taking its time coming up here. Articles on beef supply coming from Argentina. All right, here it goes. It says the White House and the New York Times report that the U.S. government temporarily lifted tariffs on 80,000 metric tons of lean beef trimmings from Argentina to lower high ground beef prices. The policy responds to multi-year low domestic cattle herds driven by drought and wildfires, though U.S. ranchers and agricultural groups have raised strong economic and food safety concerns. All right, so they decide they want to lift a tariff that had been placed on Argentina just to try to bring in some beef. All right, that's gonna come from Argentina, rather than, for like I said, they've been knowing about this thing for more than 3 years. They just say 2022, but I suspected that they knowing that there's just been a decline in their cattle population for a while. All right, but this is their solution. All right, rather than trying to up the supply or up the amount of cattle that's within the United States. All right, but I'm gonna skip ahead on this because, like I said, this thing is affecting the poor. They got a lot of people. I think she said 25,000 is going to be going out of been let go as a result of this thing closing. What happens with the rich executives? They'll continue on working at Tyson, all right, until they get rid of their next species, whether that be chicken or whatever else that Tyson deals with. But before I let this continue to play, because I'm gonna try to get to a specific spot here. I'm gonna bring out a couple of verses here in the book of Job. This is Job chapter 5, verse 17. It says, "Behold, happy is the man whom the Most High correcteth. Therefore despise not thou the chastening of the Almighty. For he maketh sore and bindeth up. He woundeth and his hands make whole. He shall deliver thee in 6 troubles, yea, in 7 there shall no evil touch thee. In famine he shall redeem thee from death, and in war from the power of the sword." See, because I'm sure there's Israelites that's working in these factories, working at these plants, all right? And this is a chastening coming from the Lord, ultimately, all right? But the Israelites are going to be fine, whether there be some, who knows if there's some elect in this plant, all right? Or even if there's just Israelites who are not of the elect, they're still going to come back, all right, after the day of the Lord and this place has been destroyed. They're going to come back in the kingdom, all right? So Israel's even though there's chastening going on that's by the Lord, Israel in the end, all right, are still going to be in the kingdom and be in a better position, all right? And we pray, all right, that the men of the Lord that are going out doing the work, all right, doing what's expected of them, all right, keeping the commandments to the best of their ability, that those elect, all right, will be saved out of this, all right? And the scriptures even tell us that the Lord's elect is going to eat, all right? The men of the Lord will drink, all right? I'm going to go there. Isaiah. Let's see. Isaiah 65 and verse 13, it says, "Therefore thus saith the Lord power, Behold, my servants shall eat, but ye shall be hungry. Behold, my servants shall drink, but ye shall be thirsty. Behold, my servants shall rejoice, but ye shall be ashamed." All right, so the servants of the Lord are going to be taken care of, he's going to bring them through this thing, all right? Because it's written here just as it says it. All right, his servants are going to eat. His servants are going to drink. All right, but I'm going to let a little bit more of this play, and then I just have one more verse, well, a few more verses, but I'll let this play.
Expensively. Now that's like a luxury meal. Spaghetti's like a luxury meal almost. Because if you want to do it with beef, oh wow. I mean, it's a special meal tonight. And what is Tyson saying about this? They're saying that the problem is cattle. They're saying that it's not that Americans don't want beef, it's just that the supply of cattle is at a 75-year low. In fact, they're saying that we haven't had this low of cattle inventory since the 1950s. So,
since the 1950s has been on a decline, all right? And they've been knowing about this, monitoring it, all right? But what have they done about it? You had from the 1950s to up the supply of cattle in this country, all right?
you know, that's what they're saying. And on the back of my mind, I'm also remembering the narrative that, you know, we should eat less meat and meat is, you know, not good for you and all of this stuff. And if they want people to...
All right, so you see she's mentioning something else here. All right, there's been this constant thing by Gil Bates, a man who's not a farmer, all right, who was a computer guy, all right, but he's got a plan to make imitation meat, all right, lab-produced meat. So this little thing that they have with this drought in the population of cattle, all right, for over, and is at a 75-year low. And at the same time, there's been a lot of propaganda promoting this imitation meat, all right, that this one billionaire is promoting, all right, and promoting how meat and beef is not good for you, all right. So the timing is impeccable. It's just everything for them right now as far as their unrighteous scheme that they're trying to promote and put forth. All right, everything is just kind of clicking for them. All right, but they think that America is buying it. Well, the ones that are paying, people who are paying attention are not buying this, because we know that this thing is being orchestrated by them, and ultimately the Lord is allowing this thing to happen. All right, but I'll let a little bit more of this play.
To move away from eating meat and go down that trajectory, isn't it a little convenient that all of this is happening? So that's where my mind goes to, really. We keep seeing catastrophe after catastrophe of things that are happening. I mean, remember the fires a couple years ago in Texas, 2-3 years ago? That was catastrophic. All of the beef that was lost there. You're seeing all kinds of issues.
I meant to mention too that these ticks that have been attacking the cattle, all right, and if you eat this meat after it's been attacked by these ticks, you can develop an allergic reaction to eating beef, to eating the meat, all right, which would in turn do what? Make you go to this imitation meat, all right. So all of a sudden these mysterious ticks have come about. And I've done a video about these ticks, because this isn't the first time these ticks have been used. Farmers are saying that how they're showing up in crates on their land, and they don't understand where these ticks are coming from. All right, but I've done a video, like I said, about these ticks. They've used these ticks before in warfare. All right, I'm gonna let just a little bit more of this play. I have a verse I'm gonna bring out, and that'll be the end.
In the beef industry, and then now because of that, we're seeing these plants close down. So groceries are going to go up more, and people are losing their jobs. And guess what? It's not going to just stop there with the beef, okay? It's going to continue into other facilities. And if you think your job is protected, you've got to stay on top of what's happening, because there's a lot of jobs that have been lost, you guys, and there is a lot more that are going to be lost. So get your household in order. Get, you know, your routines, things that you're adapted to, acclimated to. Now's the time to make certain changes. Like I said, we've cut out buying beef from the grocery store for a while now, and we're going to be getting our beef from local suppliers, local farmers, and even that is going to be expensive. But that's something that we're going to do, because number one, it's hard to trust what you get at the grocery store, and then number two, the prices are going up so much. You might as well, if you're going to purchase the beef, if you're not raising it yourself and going down that route, then you're better off finding local suppliers and supporting local. So, and
all right, I'm going to stop that there, because she just goes on for a couple more minutes. All right, but I'm just going to bring out these few verses here under Psalms 37, and I'm going to start at 10. All right, and just like I began this reading the NLT back in Genesis, I'm going to go ahead and end this reading a few verses in the NLT just to make this plain. This is Psalm chapter 37 and verse 10. Soon the wicked will disappear. Though you look for them, they will be gone. The lowly will possess the land and will live in peace and prosperity. The wicked plot against the godly. They snarl at them in defiance. But the Lord just laughs, for he sees their day of judgment coming. Salakia. Verse 14 says, the wicked draw their swords and string their bows to kill the poor and the oppressed, to slaughter those who do right. But their swords will stab their own hearts, and their bows will be broken. It is better to be godly and have little than to be evil and rich. For the strength of the wicked will be shattered, but the Lord takes care of the godly. Day by day, the Lord Yahweh takes care of the innocent, and they will receive an inheritance that lasts forever. They will not be disgraced in hard times. Even in famine, they will have more than enough, but the wicked will die. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachah HaKadosh. Shalom.